media, and we've got the board here present today, and we are really excited to have you as media. You are a very critical component of the success of Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, and as you are aware that Zimbabwe Music Rights Association is an organization that represents music composers, and our purpose is to collect royalties and distribute to members. So I will kindly ask the media team to circulate maybe the mic so that we have introductions. We know who is who in this in the house. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, International Cabinet Radio Station.
Hi everybody, how you doing? My name is Willis Watafi Africa. I'm an artist, a member of Zimura. I also run a film and TV company. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Terence Mapurisana. I'm an artist and I'm a journalist as well.
Good day, my name is Latro Nyangu. I'm a journalist.
Afternoon, my name is Vasco Chaya, the news journalist.
Magadishi, Rose Jonathan B. and Vega, I work for Gem Nation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marshall Boyd. I'm a journalist.
My name is Sanjana from
My name is Eusinyani from Newsday.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruth from the 7 podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm Anis from yourself from Daily News.
Good day, I'm Ashley Moyle from the K2.
Victor Kunonga, an artist, Zimura member.
Good afternoon everyone, my name is Olga Kunonga.
From Iguazu, CBC.
All right, thank you very much. Now I will leave this time for our board members to introduce themselves before we kickstart. Thank you.
Magadi Mose, ladies and gentlemen, compliments of the new season. Senator Sarangu would like to apologize. Nebumono Gavataita Kushiga Pamtaita by last minute. The Varata Uchen Kuzogera office. Segereyo. Those first Farai. Kanandroma Seko Zevimba Kanandraga Rapanabadon Mr. Batan. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gwenzi Alexio, the new Zimura board chair. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Evelyn Natsai Moyo, also a singer, Natsai, and I'm a Zimura board member and the board treasurer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chiesa Shaniwa. I'm a board member and a people advisor for Zimura. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, board members. Mr. Fesfarai is the board vice chair. Thank you, and I'll leave this time for the chairman to give the press statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makombe. Mr. Makombe is our Deputy Director at the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. He's the 2IC, the second in command after Policeman Nube Chimini, who is our Executive Director for the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association, Zimura. Ladies and gentlemen, like what Mr. Batani alluded to, we had to quickly rush back to the office. I'm sure you appreciate the trying times that we are going through. We had some strange visitors and we had to rush back to attend to them, but all is in order. First of all, I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking time to come on such a short notice. We really value our partnership, and I think we're going to have more of these interactive meetings going forward. I think Zimura has been, I could say, an opaque organization in the sense that we normally communicate with our members via our platforms. We've got WhatsApp channels, we've got emails, we've got our Facebook platform. But I think going forward, we need to open up to the media and we have more of these interactions and we have smooth information flow so that our musicians are not misinformed as they have been lately. There's a lot of lies and misinformation flying around, and us being quiet creates a conducive environment for these lies and misinformation to flourish. And we hope with these interactions we'll be able to share information that is helpful, not just for our members, but the entire music industry and the nation at large. So thank you very much for coming through. I'm just going to run through the press statement, but I want to read it. To my illustrations, where we're coming from. So as I've already said, there's a lot of lies flying around. And the belief is that these lies and misinformation and smear campaign is sponsored. We clearly know that in Zimbabwe, we now have 2 registered CMOs. And that competition brings with it a lot of disturbances and a lot of theatrics, a lot of dirty games that happen behind closed doors. We've got journalists, we've got bloggers that are on a rampage that are being sponsored to smear campaigns in Zimbabwe without even taking time to call, hello Mr. Gwenza, hello Mr. Batani, is it true that you saw the building? As a journalist, I'm seeing some of my colleagues. I went to school with Marshall, I was at MSU, we did our journalism degree together, as well as Mr. Amona Gerede. We went to school together, and I'm seeing some colleagues from Costa. We were taught ethics and professionalism. Hear both sides of the story before you go on your platform and say, Zimura kubiwa. Kana kuchibiwa, what do? Do you first of all go to social media or you go to police note in 1,000 yangu, then investigations oitika munhu osungwa kana achiba. Kana tichiba zvekuti ma-CID nemapurisa vanoticha vatisunge. Iwewe, where do you get the bravery kuti approach isusu nekutyisa kwatinoita? So sometimes some of these things are just a smear campaign, baseless accusations, and I think it's not a good thing. We need to be more professional, we need to be more ethical, and report in a way that benefits society. So there are 2 matters that I'm going to address. I think the first, which is a hot potato right now, is the sale of the Zimura properties. Yes, it's very true that we sold our properties in Avondale, but it's not true that we sold the whole building. Zimura owned only 2 small flats within a building. I'm sure you understand that those 2 small flats, a small flat, a 2-bed flat, is meant for a small family, like mother, father, maid, maybe 2 children. But now we've got 20 people working within that small space. And some of our guys from accounts are working within a makeshift space, like a kitchen. And it's not healthy, even the amenities like toilets, it's not sustainable health-wise. We cannot risk the health of our employees, yet we know we've got something that we can do about it. So a decision was made by the previous board to say, look, let's sell these 2 small flats. They are no longer sustainable for our operations. As Zimura, we've been operating since 1982. We need to grow. We can't keep being in such a small place where we can't have our musicians come in a thatched gazebo, interacting, sharing ideas, that kind of situation. We don't even have a boardroom. If you come there and you want to talk to us, the boardroom, you know to address our mirror in some space, which is not conducive for an organization such as Zimura. So we made a decision to sell those 2 flats. Each flat went for 75,000 to make it 150,000. The idea was to then get a mortgage and then go and buy a bigger space, still a non-commercial building, where you guys can come and interact with us in a space that is conducive for our members, for members of the public, and the employees. So people resist change. People want to continue being in the same space. They don't like change, they don't like to grow, which is what we're saying, no, we cannot accept that. And some might ask, was this done procedurally? Zimura operates with the Constitution, which is our memorandum and articles of association, which is what articles or sections or provisions that give you guidelines on how the organization should be run, and we stick to those to the letter. We have got section 41 or article 41 of our articles in association, which gives the board or which gives it the power to make all the decisions in between AGMs. It's called an annual general meeting because you can only have one. You can't have 3 annual general meetings the same. I mean, ordinarily you have one. And it says the board makes all decisions in between AGMs, including the decision to sell a building where we think it's done in good faith and it's beneficial for the members. And when you buy another property, it's a property that you own as Zimura. It still remains your property. You have not been shortchanged. And real estate, it always increases in value with time. That flat, we bought it, I think 2018, 2019 for 29,000, but it's gone for 75,000. It shows real estate appreciates in value. And we also did not need to go for an EGM because it means every other decision we want to make, we have to call people and say, guys, let's gather, let's make this decision. And how it's very expensive to book that the venue, even if it's College of Music. It's very expensive. And we can't be calling meetings every time we want to make a decision. So I want to assure our members that this decision was made in good faith and made it for the benefits of our members in an effort to grow and to transform our operations. And when we buy the new building, we're going to call all of you to come and see and witness. And today, I think we've made an arrangement, DT, to say there's a combi which will take you guys to our offices for you guys to go and appreciate how bad and how dilapidated our building is. It doesn't match with, we've got 5,200 members. During distribution, you should see them coming to our office. It's not conducive and we needed to grow. That is what informed that decision. But they'll tell you they sold the whole building for 150,000 in Avon. And you believe it because they sensationalize it. They post about it. There's a blogger who posts about it 3 times a day. Because they are paid. And we know they are paid. Because when we had our challenge with this commercial bank, which was sponsoring a cover band, and they had a huge show at the HICC. And this bank was bankrolling this event, and we knew this band was making a lot of money from it. And Zimura was, no, look, if this band the bank is giving these guys this amount of money, what does the law say? The law says the bank is supposed to give all that money to Zimura, and then Zimura splits that money into 2 and gives the cover band their share and gives the original composers of the music their share. And we said, no, instead of 50%, okay, let's get 30%. And this blogger, morning, night and day, was saying Zimura has no right to collect this money from this bank, there's no right. And we're wondering, why is he fighting so much? And 3 days later, he posted a post, thank you X bank for making me your official media partner. So it's about the politics of the stomach. They want to create content, have likes, engagement, get money from Mark Zuckerberg at the expense of musicians, which is not a good thing. And I'm happy that we are sharing this with you. And then we had an issue. I think another issue which is a hot issue. I think that you have heard that one of our employees was convicted of fraud. They sensationalize these things. We have been having problems with our regulator, CIPZ. They have not been processing our documents for 2 years, and we don't know why. And so what happened is we went to High Court, and the court wanted to know the names of the current directors as at that date. And the only thing we had was a Form CR6, which had been stamped at the companies at the receiving desk, but the registrar had not stamped because he has not been stamping our documents since 2023, and we don't know why. And we need to know why. So when I was for obvious reasons, but it was not a fault. Then this former member Vayanda Kota that this employer committed fraud because I tender a Form CR6 Christmas stamp. That is the fraud. But when they talk about it, they make you believe, no. Wakabi Wamari, Akawanda, Manisienzu, I'm chairman of the College of Music, Mupopoti Magabi Wamari, which is not a good thing. And I think we don't build an industry like that. And then on the issue of cover bands, yes, we have a way of coming up with our tariffs, which has been precedent over the past, I don't know how many years. We've been in existence, I think, for 44 years now, or 45 years now. The process is that Zimura creates tariffs. After looking at the economic situation of the country, monetary policy, and all these other things, they craft tariffs and they deposit. The law requires us to deposit to a regulator. That is exactly what we did. And these tariffs were stamped. as they have always done, to say, when you bring your tariffs, we've seen them, then they stand. That is why we then announced to say, cover bands, please pay 150 and all the things. But you'll also understand, we could have handled our communication better. Maybe we should have done like a stakeholder consultative engagement to try and find out how the industry, would take this. Maybe we could have done it better, I would like to admit. And we are in negotiations with our regulator to see how best we can sort this tariff issue problem. Because right now you look at Victor Kunoka, you look at Willis, you look at Tinashe, our musicians from Zimura. We've gone for almost 6 months receiving nothing from the cover bands. But the cover bands are playing. This Sunday I was at an event, I ran, it was a marathon, and there's a big, huge band, cover band, was playing there. And I know they got money, but what is Victor, what is Willis getting out of it? Our job as Zimura is to economically empower our members. The moment we fail to economically empower Willis, to economically empower Victor, to economically empower Tinashe, then we're not doing anything. Then Zimura must close. Right now we're busy fighting, embarrassing ourselves, watching the television on the public, on social media, paid bloggers. Instead of sitting down and saying, guys, look, how do we collect the $1 million US that is being owed to Zimura? That's exactly how much we're being owed, $1 million US. From even renowned broadcasters failing to pay Zimura. But if we sit down and find ways to recover that money, we pay our musicians. Right now we've got a second CMO that is operating, which is eating into our royalties. I'll give you an example with the High Court case, which we won, where this second CMO went, because what's happening now is that there's tariff undercut, where we put an invoice for 100,000, they go and say, no, give us 50,000, because the law allows them. So they went there, they got 46,000. We went to court, and the court was, but whose music was this organization?
ZBC Murimuna Beswa. So, monotipa tinopiwa ma-log sheets anotaridza kuti ndiyo dzakarira kangani pagore handiti zama-artist api. Total iyoyo tinototora ma-works ese akarira airplay yese yakaitika gore rese tinoidivhaidha mufiga hafu yemari yatacollecta from ese, from mabhawa, from marestaurants, from radio station, from everywhere. Tototi mari iyoyo totsemana nepakati toti ngachidivhaidhai. Akarira stireki anopiwawo yakawanda, akarirawo kawanda anopiwawo zvinoenderana nekuti akakeke kawanda. Vasinawo kurira havawani kuhafi handiti. Then imwe hafi tochitora kuti mamembers edu ese mangani tongodivhaidha ndopanozongopindawo $10 aya kune vakazowana $10 last year. This year we are in a worse situation. Of course we don't really know, but tiri pasituation yekuti takapedza gore rese last year pachita makakatano between Zimura and the other CMO, where tikaenda pabhawa kunokolekta mari konzi takatobhadhara vamwe hatisi kokupai. So tinobva tangosiyawo invoice toti but ingowani mubhawa rine rinokurira vanhu vedu wani zvonzi hati nevamwe vatakabhadhara, ende vanhu ivavo vanonzi vari ikoko kumweko havasirivo vari kurira chi mumabhawa aya. So tosvika toenda panext restaurant same thing, toenda kupi izvozvi tine mainvoice atakaishuwa kune ese marestaurants emumabhawa chichi. I'm telling you, we only collected 1/4 of mari yatakamboconnecta last year. Do you understand the gravity of the situation of having this competition? Vermont competition is healthy, but in this case, it is killing the musicians. Then we have what we call kuma broadcasters kwedu kune vamwe vasiri kutombona kubhadhara. They've just decided we don't pay. They've just decided kuti hatisi kuda kubhadhara pacho. So we are just waiting. Vanobhadhara vashoma, vasiri kubhadhara chi vakatowanda. Tiriko kuma broadcasters kwacho kune ma-agreements akaitwa kudhara nema-broadcasters kuti tinocollecta sei mari kuma-broadcasters. Ma-agreements waya haachashandi, things have changed. We used to collect based on advertising income. a percentage of advertising income, 3% of advertising income. Kudhaya zvaishanda because advertising income was a huge income for my broadcasters. At the moment, broadcasters are not making as much because we are now advertising through social media. People are no longer going to the broadcasters. So that income has really shrunk. So we want to go to our broadcasters and appeal, can we have another way of calculating Mari Vaimbi? Since you are still making money from Vaimbi, we'll give a simple example of vehicle registration. Chai personal ZBC license. And it's a simple one. Atina kana send nenda Zimura vehicle license. Those are things that we want to start appealing for and negotiating for and asking for. But while we are in our board meeting trying to agree on a way forward, vamwe vedu vakapanuka vakati takutoenda chinoti kuri kubiwa, kuri kubiwa kune problem chichichi, let's mobilize my musicians atitoita noise chichi. Uchida kumora uchi handiti ukamora uchi uchimora uchi ukada kupakaita noise tractor rikatanga kufamba kana kuti chii andinoruma nenijidzeya kwaunenge uchida kutora uchi unomorwa wakapora tatoisa kahutsi kekuti dzidhakwe nechidziya totora uchi uya handiti. But in our case we've decided kuti as musicians, instead of allowing the board to do the work that needs to be done to increase revenue, we have decided to make noise and not allow the board to do the work. So those are my humble contributions, ladies and gentlemen. As the treasurer of the board, we are actually working flat out to try and increase the revenue that we are getting at Zimura, so that our members can have a reasonable, decent royalty payment. But my royalties has kukwanisa kuti tisvike pamalevels waya kana tisina kukwanisa kufambira nyaya dzekuti tiwedzere mari yatiri kupiwa nemabroadcasters, kana tisina kukwanisa kuresolve this problem that we have of going to the same market and asking for money from the same people. Takadaro tusiyemosi. Kunana UK, kunana Germany, kunana Netherlands, kupi kunotorira chaiko. Kunema one same, South Africa, Nigeria. But Muno we decided to have two. So it is a big problem. We are also trying to work on that as well. But that is my humble contribution, ladies and gentlemen.
I think I'll just make a very short contribution, as some of my board members have insisted that I do. I don't want to repeat what has been said, but initially what I want to do is on the two major issues that have caused a bit of chaos. The sale of the property, right? In any organization, there are procedures that are followed. In any organization, how do you sell a property? How do you purchase a property? And to say the property was sold in a way that is not procedural would be one thing. But the way it is coming out, it seems as if the money is non-existent. The money is there from the sale of that property. That money is there. Resolutions. I wasn't part of the board, but the resolutions are there, where the previous board sat down, made a decision, which they are entitled to make within the law of the organization, and they sold the building. And the issue, which question is not coming up, is the market value. Some things maybe, if it was an issue to say, the market value, but the market value you can't just say up and down. You have to have an insight, an inspection of the place. To say, if this place is dilapidated or it is in this condition and it is a 2-bed apartment, how much would it go for in terms of the market? And the market is not the market today. The market as in when it was sold. Those are the type of questions that should have been asked, but were not asked. And then now, if the intention of the new board is to say, okay, the agreements had already been done, but now let us lock the value in another property. The decision is not to say, a property was sold, let us buy, I don't know, other things. But the property, that money is still being locked down in immovable property, right? And the hope is that thank you. And the hope is that the property that is going to be purchased, it's a standalone property. It's going to accumulate value so that hopefully in a few years down the line, we are looking at definitely more than 150,000 in terms of value and what needs to be done in that property. So that money is there. There's no issue regarding that. The processes are there, but also there's also been an open door policy, I believe, in terms of if someone was interested to actually find out how it transpired. Then the second issue, without taking much of your time, is the issue of the fraud by the CEO. The CEO was acting within her duties and mandate. She was actually told, please go to court. But unfortunately, she's being burnt by acting on behalf of the organization. What transpires is, in terms of the Companies and Other Business Entities Act, an organization has to file documents. That's your obligation. If there are any changes to your CRC or any changes within your organization, you file them with the Registrar of Companies. And that is what Zimura has been doing. So once it is filed, it is now the duty administrative process with CIPC to process. That's their duty administrative. They do not come and make decisions for you and say, this is what you have done, we don't want that directly. No. You inform the company of the decisions, which are already binding. They are binding because of resolutions. Whatever is filed with the company is already binding within the company. And the company is only acting on an administrative basis. So now, when the CEO was forced to go to court and submit the binding document which shows the current directors at that time, that's all she did. And at court, anyone is allowed to bring any action. An action was brought in terms of fraud. That's fraudulent. And then the court made a decision, and that decision was appealed against. That appeal has not yet been heard. An appeal against that fraud conviction. So it's one thing to say, fraud conviction, but I think you can appreciate that an appeal suspends a decision. So to say, there's a conviction, no, it has been suspended by the appeal. And let us hear the finalization of this appeal. And let us clarify that it has nothing to do with money. Because if it had something to do with money, it's a different case altogether. And the reason why I think the previous board, had also been supporting the CEO is because of the knowledge that she holds in intellectual property, in copyright, in all of those issues, and the number of years that she has served with the organization. So another thing why I believe as an organization, there were no direct or attacks against the employees. That gives rise to a lot of litigation, which the organization, if it is found wanting, would have to pay damages for all of that. Defamation, you pay damages. All of that, you pay damages. And those damages, if Zimura is to be found wanting to say, you did not hold your employees well, and there's a lawsuit, now you have to pay them, where will Zimura be finding this money from? Zimura would now have to deep within its pocket. It compromises the membership. So when you see a board being seemingly silent and holding its meetings within the board, and because it shouldn't be public actually, it should be handled within and amongst board members, all of these discussions. We do not want to get to a situation where we find lawsuit against the organization, because that money actually compromises the money of the members. I think that's all my contribution. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think the floor is now open for questions.
I'm sorry, Zimura, board and management. I'm sorry, Mese, that are there now. My name is Willis Watafi Africa, and I am a member of Zimura, like I said. I wanted to pose a question to the people whose mandate I gave to protect my intellectual property and collect on my behalf, which is Zimura. We were invited last year to the American Embassy for a workshop on IP. And I remember we had people from America, Germany, Samro, and all sorts, where we held conversations about legalities pertaining to what was happening in our territory. The resolutions were, indeed, a company may not for reasons of commercializing, take the music and intellectual property of an artist and make money out of it, let alone get sponsorship to do it without paying the owners of the intellectual property. In this case, a bank, the said bank, which we shall not mention, sponsored an outfit to perform and superimpose music that belongs to a certain group of artists. And that function called for a lot of money. I think it was heavily sponsored. And the raw material, imagine they would hire HICC for a performance, lights, stage, sound, including paying the band. That the inviting factor was the raw material, which was the music that belongs to our legends. And that our regulator actually said, it should be paid for. The resolution at the American Embassy was, there is no way that one can commercialize an event and not make money out of it. 2, we went to Aripo for another 3-day workshop where CIPZ ended up at meeting. Sevius was there, my brother was there, Tinashe, you remember you're there, Koma Victor was there. The resolution was that CIPZ then, through Zawazi, agreed that indeed there was a mistake registering another CMO, because we cannot have 2 CMOs collecting for the same rights within the same territory, especially a territory as small as Zimbabwe. So all those resolutions at these 3 or these 2 workshops, why are we not, as Zimura, communicating that to media, so that media really gets to know where we stand? Because those ones are the animosity now, because we are not speaking. I know the channels that we must follow, provided for within our constitution, and of course, corporate governance. But why are we not, at a time like this where we're taking deaths and hits, left, right, and center, why are we not communicating these events and the resolutions at these very important workshops? Because I think they help us, they even help our media team too, so that they know where to stand or how to report. Because what is happening is that the noisemakers are the ones who are being heard. Sadly, that's how social media works. But corporate governance today. But we do have resolutions that came above board for American Embassy as well as our report. That is my question. Why are we not presenting that kind of information to our media so that we don't have to have this to explain what is happening? Thank you.
Sorry, maybe I can add on to what Willis has just said before I forget. By the way, disclaimer, I'm not speaking on behalf of ZBC. I'm speaking on my behalf. This issue of 2 CMOs, where did it come from, board members? And then 2, I don't think us as broadcasters, we are paying another CMO. I don't think so. I don't think whether if that is recognized, I don't know. By the way, I'm saying, I said I'm not talking on behalf of ZBC. But where did this second CMO sprout from? Maybe there's a need to explain. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chinesa Rositra from the Zimbabwe Muslims Union. My question is to the legal advisor. I'm holding here the original article that I found at the company. Do you have a mandate to vote within the board vote when the board members vote, or are you just an advisor? According to these, was you employed?
I'm not
yes, but it did say that you did vote against Amuli and voted for Wenzi. Same goes for Miss Evelyn. The Zimura made a call to employ an accountant to act as a treasurer. Did that then give you voting rights? And also, in terms of this article, I just want to find out, when a member is cast out, it's supposed to be having members hearing at an AGM or at an EGM. But a lot of the members that have been kicked out, the letters have been signed by Farai, but passed out to a hearing near the whole members at an EGM or AGM. Thank you.
So maybe let's take those answers to those and then we can have other questions. Okay, so maybe let me start by responding to Willis. Willis, indeed, as I mentioned earlier, Zimura needs to do better in terms of smoothing information flow with all stakeholders. The challenge that we had, you should appreciate this is a new board, of course, and we were trying to group, give each other tasks to say, you are now responsible for communication. Unfortunately, the gentleman who had given that task had come onto the board with ulterior motives. For example, we gave a musician 8,000 USD last year in December. You said, no, guys, this is positive news, let's report it. And he said, no, we don't want people to know that we are paying these large amounts of money. I'm saying, Zimura is saying he's giving $10. Kupatango bought 8,000. So he did not want anything positive reported about Zimura. Now that we know he's been working with these other groups, including Chiwaniso here from Zimo, because I saw a message he put on Facebook where he says we are meeting at College of Music for you to get more information called Nigi and Zimo, which means they have been working together. So we have such challenges, but we want to guarantee and promise you that going forward, we're going to do things differently. Make sure Zimura is an open book. Whatever information that you need, we should be able to provide and improve our communication. Maybe Didi, you can take the second question.
Thank you very much. I'm taking the second question, which was asking that where did the second CMO came from. So our Copyright and Labor Revised Act, Chapter 26.05, does not have a cap. It does not have a limit. It doesn't give a limit as to how many CMOs should be registered and managing which rights. So this is a weakness that is in the law itself. What that simply means is we can have 10 CMOs collecting for the same right. We can have 15, but then who then suffer because of that weakness is the right holder. Is the same person that is supposed to be protected by the same Copyright and Labor Rights Act, the artist, the music composer. So our board is working hard, engaging the relevant authorities, trying to correct these problems that we have in the act itself. So it's a weakness that's there, and CIPZ has got a right to register CMOs. So, but they have to do so looking at the environment that you are operating in. They have to do so looking at the rights that are still vacant or other rights that are taken by other CMOs. So they should have taken consideration of that before they registered another CMO. Thank you very much.
Before let me just answer. Sorry. My sister Chiwaniso, answering you now. Thank you. Firstly, I would like to say Zimura is a world international acclaimed organization. Aiite zvazvo zvikuru kana kuita chinungu pakuranwa. Ine mitemo yekuti inotevedzewa, like you are saying, kuti ma-articles are zvakati. This is my 13th year ndiri board member. Pamuri kutaura pakadzingwa vamwe vanhu pesa panofunga it was my 11th, 12th or 10th year. Andimazvisa. Mitemo iri kuzimira kwekwe right now, eventually ukangoita vice chairperson, you become the disciplinary chairperson. Chairman, I mean. So tsamba inayo nechisaino iye haina kubva kumba kwaFarai. Tsamba iya yaigarwa pasi nemaboard members vari mudisciplinary committee. Farai chairman wozoisa signature yake chete. Handifunge kuti munhu anorizina chayangati Farai anodzinga vanhu kuzimura ndiri ani. Ndiri just a board member. Ndinenge ndangotora title chairman wedisciplinary committee chete. I think manizwa zvakanaka. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll address the question for legal advisor. The initial position is, if we read it, I'm a board member, so I'm a director, and dash legal advisor. So I think we had explained it previously about our company's office. My explanation before, I don't know which ones you have.
The current ones at the CIP.
That's the thing that I'm saying now. You can believe you might have the current ones, right? But there have been amendments. I think the question that we had basic, a company sits down by resolutions, they can make amendments, and that's binding, right? So those amendments have been made, and there has been an issue with companies. We have people who go there, they ask for a record. Do you know there are actually 2 files at companies? There was a time where a file was missing, and then another dummy file was created, and we had people who would go there to find a CR6, they find an outdated CR6, and the person says, I'm still a director in terms of the CR6, but there are so many documents that have been updated, but companies has not been registering them, not really registering, has not been performing or processing them, right? So now the reason why that background is important to your question. The current amended articles says that a legal advisor, a board member can vote. Where a legal advisor cannot vote is at AGMs. So if it's at AGM and you find me raising my hand and voting, yes, 100% I cannot vote. But now my appointment is as a board member. I sit amongst the council of 8, right? That's where I sit. There's a council of 8, and one of the councils has to be legal advisor. But in terms of that council and the decision that are made within that council, there's nothing that says a legal advisor cannot vote. But what is very clear is under AGMs to say, if it's AGM, you're not a member, you cannot vote, and I'm okay with that.
So you also be signatory to a bank account?
I can be, if I think I want to be, I guess. There are no limits, so to speak. This issue, I won't say where it exactly started in terms of limiting. But a signature to a bank account, I'll address it without really specifying to your question. You can't have one person. There has to be checks and balances across the board, right? And it has always to be in line with what is current. So I think what we need and what we are working towards is with CIPs, so that they update the records, so that you are not looking at things that are maybe some years back. Because imagine we're talking about 2 years where the processing hasn't been really taking place. But imagine within those 2 years, there's so many changes that have been taking place. So many changes. And then also you speak about the vote to say my vote was for this person, this case. I speculated as well. Because the votes were closed ballot votes. So someone might think I voted for someone, but I might have voted for the other person or whoever exactly. So it's closed votes and they ran twice. And even during that voting process, and even before that voting process, questions are asked. No one is forced. Are you happy with proceeding with votes? I guess people say yes or no, whatever. If people have any queries, they raise their queries, but things they went on. So I hope I really did answer your question, but I think I'll give Ms. Evelyn if she has anything else to get on the last part for her own portion.
Yeah, just to clarify that we're in a board of directors. I have sat on boards This is no different from any board. As a board member, I'm governed by the Companies Act and the rules of the board, right, and the articles of our memorandum and articles of association, which have been amended according to board resolutions that are binding. And I have a right to vote for whoever I want to vote for. My vote was private and confidential. We had a company there that was that we had hired to supervise. Yes, to convene. Yeah, they convened the voting process. No one saw who voted for who. You may be mistaken that I voted for a certain person. Maybe I actually voted for the other person or someone else either. So you do not know my vote. My vote remains my secret. It is like saying someone at a ballot box to you know, and then you go public with that. Your vote is your secret. My vote is still my secret. I will not disclose who I voted for, and I have a right to vote because I'm in a board of directors. You know, decisions are made by voting. We do resolutions. If you then silence us, how do we then make good decisions as a board? Your own reasoning, matter. How do you make good decisions if you are not allowed to vote? Because imagine all this wealth of knowledge. If I then say, okay, let's go this direction, let's go and meet CBC. There will be a vote. We have to cast a vote. If you then say this director is not allowed to vote because she's not, she was not chosen by the members, she had to go through a different process, interviews, all that. Then why did you put the director there? Because their job is to help with running a business, right? And running a business requires decisions. How do you then make the decision if you are not allowed to vote? It is my question to you, madam. How do you make a decision if you are not allowed to vote? Munotaura said, "Nasikujiwa chicken, nasikujiwa beef, umba." Can I remember singabuzi taura? And it's a remember because they get it taura, you have a voice to speak. We have allowed you to run the home, and then we say, "No, don't speak, don't vote." So I think here we need to use our own reasoning. Okay?
I just want to thank you ladies for voting for me. I didn't know. Actually, how did you know that they voted for me?
I didn't say they voted for you.
You said they did not vote for Amuli.
I was reading, according to the press release that you sent after you were elected chairman,
okay,
and who was elected vice chairman, not
okay,
when you guys had a tie.
Okay, thank you, Shanice. Okay.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think here, like Jaispe Manastana, Pana Paisinia Kutuaka Votera, Nikana Kutan, my sister Joyce. Inye Kuleka knowledge ye corporate governance. Paka create what two Macabaos. One ya Alex, one ya Amoli. Myself, personally, I voted for Amoli. Give a better stalemate. But indeed, number one to be rapidly by Facebook. Some elections are nowhere also got this. I got to contest a bit one. Saka Mungati to vote early. What's in what agenda come vote early? Saka I think in Kuleka knowledge corporate governance. I'm sorry. My people are poor, Tete Jones.
I'm so, but it's not a stick.
All right, thank you. My question has to do with how you clarified this. I think I'll ask, why haven't you actually talked about the background to the elections and the politics? Thank you, Fessarai, for highlighting. So what I am getting, and I will present it as a question because I am getting it like this. It seems that these three guys, they did what they did because they wanted power, and they had no interest in me as a Zimura member, because I'm a Zimura member. So I will let you know there was a WhatsApp group that was created, and I think it was Derek who created that WhatsApp group when he said, I am the person responsible for information. And I asked him on that WhatsApp group, and I said, why do you guys not have a chairman? And then he lied. He said everything is okay. Right now, this is how things are running. You can confirm because all of you were on that WhatsApp group. And I asked for a period, I think of 3 weeks or a month. I kept on asking. And I remember first Farai, you said you were the vice chairperson at the funeral. And no one in that faction of 3 complained and said, no, first Farai is not the vice chairperson because it is me, Amuli, who should be the. So why are you guys not sharing this information in the background to say no? What we are seeing, all this noise that we are seeing that is being made, it's a fight for power. Yes, thank you for addressing that. There are other people involved, including Zimu, and I will call out you on this one. Because now Zimu is wanting to be involved in the affairs of Zimura, but they have nothing to do with Zimura. The president of Zimu is a disgraced former Zimura member who was checked out because of disgracing the organization. So my question as a Zimura member is to say, let us have things come out in the open. And if this thing is about power, then, and you have to clarify it. If this whole mess happened because someone wanted power, because Amuli wanted power, then let's talk about it. Because at the end of the day, all musicians do not understand this. Bangarugo hakira barugo enda negunda msaira. Barugo tala WhatsApp group iro rangara creator that bangasa negunda msaira. Because baka taka kunzi tipe ma ikokesh number. Ndikati ikokesh number yakuipa kukabiwa mari kukadirungera negunda msaira. So abana unaona negunda sara vakaenda vakadanze tikubongotera kuti mari dziri kubiwa ndikavunza umwe ndikati mari dziri kubiwa urikuti dziri kubiwa kuti do you have evidence? Do you have evidence to say Mari Kubiwa? So for me, my question is, if this is an issue of power, then you guys clarify that the factionalism that took place in Zimbabwe was because of a power desire, which Amula not a chairperson. And let all us as members know, putting those shakaitika, and this is why we fire people. Because at the end of the day, if you don't talk about that, but we didn't really understand why a drastic decision was taken to the point of firing the other directors. Thank you.
We have 2 more questions.
Also, sorry, GCJ. Part of this issue, alright. Part of this issue, problem that has been going on, starting with the kicking out of Eden, is it not an issue of lack of access to information that you have not addressed your members? I'm not talking about the press releases, I'm not talking about the press that's here, but your members. And then this is then what is causing the factionalism. Because apana kuiswa zvipachena patebo panoona panechi nemunhu wese kuti zvikufamba even kuti how do you then calculate the royalties? Area of the rectangle is with times length and it saka yakumari izosvika $6.35 yakakuletwa sei ende pamwe munhu wese anonzwa kuti kuita sei kurira.
I'm sorry. Ndingakunzwisisa kuti pataurwa nyaya yekuti pakavhotwa ndobva pabuda paine stalemate. And I'm wondering kuti dai pasina kuzodzingwa vakadzingwa, we probably would have had another stalemate. Who knows? Saka ndingakunzwisisa kuti paconstitution pedu or pamitemo iripo, what happens in a situation where a stalemate is? The acting ndiye acharamba achiacta here, because stalemate inogona kuita 3-4 years. I find that in a normally kuti pane paine vanhu 8 instead of maybe 9 or 7 or 5. Kuitira kuti paite decisions, because decisions enyu ese amuchaita
anogona kuita stalemate, the same stalemate. How were you going to move forward? Thank you.
Yebo. Thank you very much. Panenge lasiya panenge batitutsiwa nevamwe. Chiedza ogadzira statement. Thank you. Mogadzira kupindura chiwaniso. Yeah, thanks. The run-up yekuenda kuma-elections tapuwa date nekuti tokuenda kuma-elections. We were having caucus meetings, tega, my private meetings. And it was resolved to Inini, Derek, Garakara, na Amuli. Tichafutira Amuli as the chairperson. And Alex kwake ukanga campaign on the back. Tangati tuwa na wakasia. Andifika avano andizivi nditaura Alex campaign on the back. Pastel yakazouya andimanzvisa. Zvadero second round ndobaita statement zvakati tikabuda inini ndakavhotekwa nayo ndivakapa resolution yekuti Mr. Butana ngavaite chi acting chairperson kusvika tazoita ma-elections. Now nezvakazoitikawo pakati apa handizivi kuti vamwe vavo vakafuma ndapanduka here. And they used to come workplace kwangu tichitandara toenda kulunch toenda kunoma todzoka pabasa toparadzana ndakuenda kumba. Hapana kana ngachauya kana macalls kana pa-WhatsApp. Ndiko ndangozoona ndanzi ndapanduka ndaenda kudivi revanhu vakaita sei vatengesi kana kuti mbavha. But inini truly speaking, like I said before, handikwanisi kunanga munhu umbavha wandisina komana achiba. She said it natsai kuti inini ndini auditor, ndini treasurer, ndini accountant. Akasauya kwandiri as a board member kana chairperson kana vice chairperson kuti abata nhenga ari kuba ndife ndakazviziva because ina handina zvanoziva nezvemari. Wemari aripo to give us the report. Handiti manzwisa. Saka nyaya yepower sure tanga taisiya. I think ndo nyaya hombe zvezvatikutukirwa izvi. Farai wakaba mari kwamashakada mari ezvarini 15 years ago. Tiri kutaura nyaya yeZimura. Let the Zimura people, my colleagues, my board members and staff yoyo yotaura kuti Farai wakaba mari kumbo. Just tomorrow morning I'm going to report myself to the police to be investigated so that I get cleared. Ndiri kunzi ndakaba na uyu openai nengiriri investigations or go to the police ndakwenda kuzati second tomorrow vandi investigate because vatadza kundimhangarira ka I've got to go there ndega inini kunozvimhangarira so that I get cleared. Hallelujah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Vice Chair. I will take the question why Zimura is not communicating to its members on royalty calculations. So, before a member joins the organization, to make our orientation, you apply, you are admitted into membership by the board. And the day, like today, right now, we had an orientation at the College of Music, admitting other members in Harare. And we have HODs, heads of departments within the organization, explaining how those departments work, including royalty calculations. So that's point number one. Point number two, we've got workshops that we do in all the provinces. We call members to come and participate at these workshops. And we also explain these issues. We entertain questions on how calculations of royalties are done, where do we collect our revenue from, and how many distributions are done in a year. So another point is of social media platforms. We use those platforms to disseminate information to our members and the public. Whoever so wishes to know anything about Zimura can follow those platforms. But it's your responsibility as a member, as a music composer, because this is your business. You should know how royalties are calculated. And we've got all these platforms. Besides that, we've got an open door policy. You can come to the office, you can call. We've got a WhatsApp platform. You can ask questions on that WhatsApp number. So honestly, you can't say that we are not communicating things to our members. Yet we have got all these platforms in place. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to address Mr. Nyamkapa on the issue of whether this was about power. I would like to admit and say it seems as though certain colleagues, when they got into the board, they had a mission to do a hostile takeover of the whole organization. I'm saying so because we've got one member who was removed from the board 2 years ago, who is probably Zimura's #1 enemy. He's the same guy that took videos of the other 2 board members who were campaigning. We've got evidence that he's the one that filmed those videos. So in actual fact, he put them on board. That's why we've got a board member who leaks staff salaries and says, employees at Zimura are earning 3,000. And they take a picture of the gross and forgets to mention that pay as you earn will be removed. AIDS levy, that will be removed. And if you look at their net take home, it's a sorry situation. Because we want to sensationalize, discredit Zimura, probably push for Zimura's deregistration, and maybe leave another CMO thriving. Maybe that is the goal, we don't know. And we have got a board member who goes, I think you saw the video circulating yesterday. He goes to Zimura office and says, members, this is the building that was sold. But he knows that within that building, we only owned two small flats. Sensationalize, smear campaign, discredit, push for Zimura deregistration, and maybe prop up another CMO. So I think as journalists, I'm hoping we've got investigative journalists in the building. These are very interesting issues you can go and search and research. But what is the core problem that's happening in the music industry? So I wanted to just let you know that yes, some people came and thought Zimura leadership is about who's the chair. For us, it's not about who's the chair. It's about, do you have the passion to move the organization forward? Are you loyal to the organization? How can you say you love an organization and you tarnish it on social media? You guys say, we've only been in office for 2.5 months. You've exhausted all internal channels to solve a problem, but you're rushing to a blog on social media to say, please post this. Tell Zimbabwe that our CEO is a fraud convict. So how do we partner with the corporate world? If people are watching that online to say, Zimura, kuna fraudster CEO. So as a leader, how do you intend to make Zimura collaborate with the corporate world if you're putting all this onto social media? That's when you start thinking, say, no, look, man, these people are on a mission. They thought we're daft, they thought we're dumb, but we're not daft. They are calling government, come and intervene. The president does not appoint daft people. Those ministers are very smart people. They know what's happening. And another thing that I want to say to my colleagues, I saw some of them, they came to Zimura yesterday. I don't know if you know, someone can just look at you and say, his face, his height, someone comes and say, His Excellency is the president for everyone, including myself, including everyone who is here. Your Excellency, he's the president for everyone. So don't use that, don't politicize this thing and say, ZANU-PF just won't see. No, this one is ZANU-PF a political thing. It's us just trying to make sure we collect revenue on behalf of our members and distribute royalties. It's as simple as that. There is no need for politics, there is no need for anything. It's a simple economic project that we're doing, and which is in line with the law, Corporate Labor Rights Act, Chapter 26. So please, let's not divide our members. Let's tell our members the truth. Because at the end of the day, we're better off united than fighting on social media and propping up bloggers that are being paid without your knowledge. Some people are being paid to mobilize musicians and take pictures and videos so that whoever is paying them can say, thank you very much, you're making enough noise to discredit Zimura. But please be warned, we are not pushovers. We are not just watching and not doing anything. I want to make this clear. We're not pushovers. We are here, we've got 5,500 members, including the most popular musicians. Jack Brazer is our member, Alec Machis is our member, XP is our member, Natio, the late Master Zakaria, Oliver Mtukuzi, the late. All these big people, you think they're quiet because they're stupid. No, they know what's happening. They know what's happening, but you're taking advantage of people whenever has no knowledge. And we promise you going forward as Zimura, we're going to be more transparent, engaging more with the media, make sure we smoothen the information flow. Thank you. I think we can take two advisors. She has got to answer.
The tiebreaker.
Victor. He asked, could you go for
So let me address the question regarding an issue of stalemate. When faced with this scenario and asking former board members and I think the organization, it became very clear that it was the first time there was a stalemate in terms of chairmanship, right? And because of things that are never anticipated, you go back to the Constitution and you want to see what does it say. It was silent because it was never anticipated. That's why then our parties, they decided to say, okay, fine, let's re-vote. Parties re-voted and they still remained a stalemate. So even remaining a stalemate, the decision then made by the board members, the resolution to say, okay, for now, let us give each other time. Maybe that time will allow people to find another person who's willing to be voted for. It gives the members just time, the board members time. That's what we wanted, because in terms of the Constitution, it was silent. I know in different organizations, there's that thing of the casting vote. The chairman or someone has the casting vote. So the person who was overseeing the voting, we could not give them the casting vote. That was just not that was not part of the Constitution. So we proceeded to say, okay, fine, this is what it is. But now that's what we are guided by. But to have an acting chair, you can have an acting chair. You vote to make a resolution to have an acting chair. And there's no time limit, unfortunately, for that. But the issue is sometimes it cuts out if acting chair is an acting chair for the whole duration of the sitting of the board. It might be something that other people might say, why do you not have faith within the board or at least a unanimous decision amongst the board? But I think now that might be a future decision to be made to say in future if something like this happens, what do you do? And then it goes back to what I said. If the company decides to make a resolution to address some of these future issues and problems, then they have to follow the proper process, and then they have to file with the companies, hoping that the companies registers whatever new decision that is. I think, yeah.
So I think we'll take two questions, because we also wanted to take that tour to Zimura offices for you guys to appreciate our current offices before the office closes for it. So
all right. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Well, I was perhaps thinking as a way forward, I would like to agree with my brother. What's your name again? No, Tinashe. Yes, Tinashe and Titi. Is that correct? Choniso. Hey. To a certain extent, when they say that there's a vacuum in as far as information is concerned, indeed there's a vacuum, ladies and gentlemen, and you need to work hard on that. This is more of a way forward. There are quite a number of issues that are being circulated on social media, which we don't know, which people have to sort of like come up with some guess answers. For example, the issue of fraud, is, you explained it very well, you know, the issue of the building, you know, some don't even know that you have an accountant, call yourself an accountant, is it? who does the books. They think right now that Zimura board is going to and festival, you know. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done.
in as far as that vacuum is concerned. And then two, I don't know how this can be done, but I honestly think that this voting process of voting for board members is just a mess. It's just a mess. Board members should be appointed when they are merit. You don't just vote because you like Watafi or I like Victor. You know, we need to find out whether if Victor or Watafi understands what they are going to be doing in that office. You know, I don't know how we're going to deal about it, but this voting process is just a mess. And people definitely, they need to be appointed as board members. I thank you.
My name is Andrew. I just wanted to add to what you were saying about the dissemination of information. Probably,
Sorry, Commander. From which?
263 couch.
Thanks.
Probably the issue of how much was collected by Zimura, probably on average, how much is collected. And those figures already are available. Let's say for 2025, how much was collected, and then the structure that you use to distribute that money. If that information was readily available, don't you think that it's going to clarify a lot of issues with the artists as well, so that they understand, oh, I'm getting this little out of a pot of how much, and then whoever is getting more, I'm getting this much out of a pot of how much. Is that information also readily available, or people are just using guesswork? Because someone will say, I got $10, but then they will be thinking 20 million was collected, just because now Zania is a public negations, but our figures readily available. Thank you.
There's one there, the next one. Thank you.
I think from the way you explained that this current impasse is actually a product of misinformation and disinformation. So I want to know what is doing the way forward. Are you going to establish internal mechanisms, communication mechanisms to inform the Zimura family, which includes the nations themselves, external stakeholders? I'm talking about us, the media. I'm talking about the common man on the street, government, and other stakeholders, which is the corporate world. Are you going to establish mechanisms where you communicate with them so that they understand the trajectory, how Zimura collects revenue on behalf of the artists, so that there is no misconception, because there are no future impasses like this?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'm going to just respond to Nkoma Terence, and I think the question is pretty much the same as the one asked by Nkoma Marshall. Indeed, we need to improve as Zimura in terms of information dissemination. I think this press conference is but one of the many others that we're going to have. We really kindly asking you, members of the media, to partner us, to help us inform our members of how Zimura operates. People must know that you are only paid for usage of your music. That's how the copyright business works. If your music is not being used widely, you cannot expect to get anything. So we really invite you, members of the press, to partner us. If you have any questions, please feel free. Call Mr. Makombe. If he refuses to give you information, call any one of us to say, I called your guy at the office is refusing to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we take advice. Whenever you feel there's something we need to do better, please feel free to reach out. I think I talk to most of you guys in the room. Feel free to advise us. And then also, as Zimura, we also hold workshops in all 10 provinces. I think this year we're going to have workshops again to educate members of the public. And we're also coming up with a podcast. I think last year you saw us do a dry run for a podcast which was being done by Koma Willis and Koma Nyamkaba. Now that we're looking for a new property, once we've got a new nice property, we're going to start the discussions on how we can establish our own podcast that gives you information in real time. I'd like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Maybe I'll give my colleague to just say one thing, and then we move on to the next season. Yeah. But please don't go. We want you to go to Zimura and see our offices.
Sorry, without taking much of your time, I'll answer Andrew. Andrew, our 2025 figures have not yet been audited, so they are not yet ready for publishing. However, our 2024 figures were distributed to our members. But like I said, just giving rough estimates, considering we've got 5,000 members, you can do the math and see how much we collected based on what people got. So this is information we disclosed to our members at AGM. I think some of the people in here were at the AGM. They know those figures. They're very clear about what actually was collected and also what we could not collect. So there are figures that it's very clear, because when we'll have our income there, and then we'll have our data there, and then we'll show that this is what we got. And so your royalties are based on this much airplay. And for those that got more, it's because you had more airplay, and those that didn't have as much didn't get much airplay. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our press conference. We'd like to thank you. On our way out, we are meant to have our snacks and some drinks. And I will be sitting here for your transport fees. And then
tell them that I've been wonderful.
Yeah, we also got a copy ready for you, so that we go to the office.